Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ice Cold Takes podcast. I'm your host, Joey DeMeglio, and preseason has started for the Rangers, who are coming off a 4-2 victory over the Islanders on Tuesday. I was in attendance at MSG for the game, as was my guest on this week's episode. Let's welcome back to the show, new beat reporter for the Hockey News, Jonny Lazarus. Great to have you on the show again, Johnny. How are you?
It's great to be here again, Joey. Thanks for having me. But I don't know if your listeners want me back on here after what I said on the show last year that came to fruition. So I'm surprised that I was asked to come back on, to be honest.
No, man. I mean, if you could make a correct ice cold take, even if it concerns the Rangers and it's negative, then you got to come back on. Like that's I crapped the bed very prematurely last year after the Rangers traded for Kane. I said this is the year the Rangers won the cup. That
Mhm.
cannot be more of a melted take than that. But you hit the nail on the head right in the beginning of the season. Like literally 3 games in, you're like, I don't know. I think the Rangers could be a first round exit.
Mhm. And guess
Yeah.
what? I think the same about the Devils this year. So it's all the hype. It's just really how it goes, right? Like it's the teams that aren't knocking on the door that have success a little bit earlier than expected that always disappoint the year after. So,
Hmm.
I actually would say the Rangers do win a playoff round this year. And, I'm sure we'll get into it. I don't want to say too much right now, but
Yeah. No. Like that. I think that's a good starting point too. Like, you look at where the Rangers were a couple years ago, first year under Gallant, and they went all the way to the conference finals when no one was expecting them to do that. This year, the Devils went from they made what was it, a 40-point jump from the
I think
previous year,
45. Yeah, I think 45.
45-point jump from the previous year. They almost won the division. They won a playoff round. They beat the Rangers. Like that's crazy. So the expectations for them have got to be really, really high. So it
Yeah, they're
makes
like the
sense what you're
sexiest
saying.
pick to win the cup right now.
Yeah, and I also saw someone posted like an article from ESPN, like the top up and coming teams for like the next 10 years, and the Devils are number one. And
Well,
that
that
also
I
makes
agree
sense.
with.
That
That
also
I agree
makes
with.
sense because
Mhm.
they have a lot of young talent, and their best players are their younger guys. Whereas like the guys like on the Rangers are a bit older, but they don't have as many years to go. Like in 10 years, Hughes will be like 30,
Mhm.
only 30 or 31, whatever, however old he is now, plus 10. I don't know how old he is now,
He's
but
22.
he's
22.
22. So 32 years old, and that's still a lot of time that he could kick at the can in 10 years. But,
Mhm.
like I like that. I like that take that you have there. The Rangers could win a round, but the Devils could, lose in the first round this
Well,
year.
yeah, I mean, it's not a crazy take. Like any of that is possible, right? Like it's not. I'm not saying anything nuts or
Well,
new to
yeah,
anyone.
but history proved that, like last year it makes sense.
Mhm.
We've seen it happen. We've been witnesses. But
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, so now you're at the Hockey News, right? You were doing a whole bunch of stuff last year, and you've always done that with the NHL. Hands in What did Vince say on his show? Is like your hands in a bunch of different cookie jars. I
Yeah.
think that's what he said. But,
Something like that.
what's it like going from a true hockey player? You weren't some beer leaguer. You were like an actual college hockey player, like working in the media. What has that transition been like for you?
Well, I'm a beer leaguer now, but yeah, I think for me, I mean, if you want the full story, it was always just like, I've always been a hockey fan, no matter like what level I was playing at. And I always loved the Rangers, obviously. They were my favorite team, but I loved the league as a whole. Like, I remember as a kid, I grew up like hating the Penguins because that was the years like it felt like, Crosby and Malcolm were just dominating the NHL and the Rangers seemed to always like lose to them in the playoffs, back in like 08, 09, like that time. Um, and like as I got older, like, I wasn't really a hockey player. I was a kid that played hockey. Like that's kind of how I phrase it now because it's so true, right? Like a lot of hockey players don't necessarily have the social lives and they don't really play different sports growing up on different teams. And I kind of did a lot of things in my life away from hockey that I didn't necessarily get that hockey like typical personality of some sorts, I guess, for lack of a better explanation. And a lot of my teammates always told me like, my personality could be good in the media someday, like because I, know the game and I know the players, and I was always able to think the game and talk the game better than I can actually play it. And I think we hear a lot of narratives around the NHL all the time of, it needs to get younger. There needs to be fresher voices. And, as I got older and I realized my playing window was kind of dying down, I was like, you know what, why can't I do it? Like I didn't go to school for journalism, but I went for communications. And, like, this is stupid, but like, I was always like, I don't know how you judge it, but I was always like good at Twitter, like in high school, like for whatever, like my friends always like, I was the kid in the friend group. Like if they needed a caption for a tweet or an Instagram post, they went to me for like a caption, like that's like
Yeah.
the stupidest thing ever. But like, I don't know, I guess it made me feel good, like thinking that I was creative in that sense. So yeah, like luckily for me, but unluckily at the same time, I graduated college the year of COVID in 2020. So like, I wanted to play pro in like one of the minor leagues, like the East Coast League or the SPHL, and the season got canceled. I was actually signed to play in Pensacola, but that season got postponed and there was nowhere to play. And then 3 months into COVID, I put on like 20 pounds, 30 pounds. I was like a total fucking bum. Sorry, I don't know if I can curse on here.
You're good.
Yeah, so I was like, you know what? Do I even want to like work my bag off to get back into shape for like what I know my ceiling is? Like probably not. And I'd been doing media stuff a little bit on the side, just like trying to get started and work my way up and whatnot. And there was like a year or so where I couldn't find a job, and I was just putting all my heart and effort into learning how to edit, learning how to talk, I guess, interview and all that stuff. And it's really just kind of been, a lot of people say I've had like a quick I guess rise in the media, which it is definitely true a little bit, but it's been 4 years of nonstop work, and that maybe it doesn't seem like a lot, but I guess everything has transpired a little quickly, but it's been a long time of doing this.
Yeah. And I particularly like the transition, like the player to the media, because I don't know any press members for the Rangers that previously played hockey. I don't think Vince, Molly, or Colin ever played, or Larry Brooks. I have no idea. I don't think they played hockey, but they love the sport so
Mm.
much that they made a career out of it. Whereas you played the game for such a long portion of your life that like every nook and cranny pretty much of it, and like what goes on in the locker room. You could understand it, and you probably like convey the message a lot better too to like your audience, which is awesome for a journalist. Like that's the main thing that you want to do is, you know, put out a story that everybody's going to understand. So I
Thank you. I
think,
mean, that's definitely the goal.
yeah,
And I haven't talked to Vince, Molly, Colin, Arthur, Larry about like I know Molly played, I think, basketball in high school. I know we talked about that, but it is true. Like it's interesting, right? Because like there's so many errors in my writing sometimes because
it
I didn't go to
happens.
school to be a writer. So like I'm happy that my message gets across, even if it lacks maybe some grammar at
Yeah.
sometimes, but as long as the message is clear, that's kind of what I'm going for. So
Yeah, that stuff, the grammar all comes in time. Like I'm
yeah.
still making mistakes. Like I'm in the master's program for journalism. I'm still making mistakes. It's tough, but eventually the more you write, the clearer everything
Mhm,
everything becomes.
for sure.
So yeah, having that prior knowledge of the game is definitely unique. So I'm looking forward to more of your stories coming out
Thank you.
as the season goes. But I mean, let's talk about like the Rangers. They opened up preseason last night. So we're recording on Wednesday. So Tuesday night, the Rangers played the Islanders, and they got off to a really fast start. What was it like? Maybe 3 goals within the first 5 to 10 minutes.
I
The
think
Rangers
even it
were
was
fine.
3 minutes, like 10 seconds. It was like
Yeah.
even yeah, it was nuts.
Kako scored 15 seconds into the game, which was awesome. And you know, I have high hopes for him, but my first question for you is like that line, Othman, Trocheck, and Kako, that looked really good. I don't What did you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the 3 of them were buzzing the entire game. Othman was super impressive out of the gate, but he got a little bit quieter, I think, as the game went on. Kako was all over the ice. I thought he looked so confident last night, and obviously, I think a lot of that has to do with scoring 15 seconds into the game. But it also just goes to show that he, is starting to feel like he needs more responsibility, right? Like he seemed like he wanted the puck more. He was all over it. There was, I think Laviolette referred to it too in the postgame press conference. There was one shift where Kako had the puck on his stick for like 45 seconds
Yeah.
in the offensive zone. And then Benny Trocheck, like he looked like he was in midseason shape. That guy was buzzing. He is definitely one of the fastest skaters on the team. He created a lot. He looked confident as well. And yeah, the three of them were really, really clicking. Do I think there'll be a line? No. But it's nice to see like Othman feel comfortable out there too. And that's something I talked to him about after the game too is, it's different right now for all the rookies that are in training camp
Mhm.
because every player on the team is still trying to learn a new system. So, it somewhat puts them on an even playing field where, there's things that Trocheck might mess up that Othman might do right because they're both learning what Laviolette wants to preach. So, it's definitely a different look in the preseason, but also like, dude, the Islanders, it was their first preseason game. They didn't have a lot of their regulars in the lineup. So like you can't really judge how well the Rangers played against an Islander team that was basically like an AHL roster. So, as exciting as it is to see the team win, it's not like it's, super telling of what we're going to see in 2 weeks from now.
That's a good point you brought up about understanding the system. Like, you could gain confidence just off of that. You don't just necessarily need it to, like, score goals, right?
Mhm.
Like, if you're a younger player and you're doing something right that the other player, like an older player like Trocheck, like you said, it, messes up. It's everybody's adjusting to the new coach. But, and also, like, Kako, sometimes when you look at players, I almost feel like you could tell when they're nervous and, like, they don't want the puck and they'll fumble it, they'll mishandle a pass. Kako is not that at all. Like, he
Mhm.
wanted the puck and he was good with the puck last night. He was very dominant with it, and he was strong too, like, away from the puck, like, he would, you know I saw that he would hit players, like, he would, like, reverse hit before he went into the corners to dig the puck out, and I thought he did a good job overall too. I think Laviolette talked about that him too in the press conference, like you said, the
Mhm.
45-second, 35-second, whatever it was, that shift, but, on Othman, I agree with you, I thought he tapered off moments here and there. Do you think he could still make the team?
So I think he could make the team. But I don't know if they're going to start with him on the team. I know that they want to take their time with this kid and let him play a little bit of pro hockey before making the full jump. Um, because right now, excuse me, as the roster stands, like I don't know where Othman necessarily fits. I don't see him in a top six role. I can see him squeezing in on the third line. I don't think he has any business playing fourth line minutes. So it's a tough thing to try to figure out and navigate. But to that same point, it's like this is a team that's going to be competing, right? So it's not like you're throwing in this young kid and expecting him to save the franchise, like most first rounders typically do. And as the season goes on, there's going to be times where Othman probably gets called up, and after he plays 20, 25 games in the AHL, when he does get called up, he could be way more comfortable than he would be as opposed to starting the season on the team. And from that point, maybe then you have him fully on the roster every night. So uh, the worst thing they could do with Othman, I think, is play him too much too early, where that destroys his confidence if it doesn't go well. And the best thing they could do is let him take his time, I think, in the minors, adjust to pro hockey. And he even said it last night. And I think Vince is actually working on a story right now about it. He said he's trying to get rid of a lot of his junior hockey habits, which he didn't get into detail about. But, myself transitioning from junior to college, when you are an older player playing junior hockey, you dominate and you feel stronger, you feel faster, and you feel like you have the puck on your stick way more because you've played at that level now for 2 3 years and it's a slower pace. But when you make that jump to the next level, whether it's college, whether it's the NHL, AHL, whatever it might be, you're now the slower guy, right? Like you have to take time to adjust to that pace. Your decision making is a little bit slower, your speed's a little bit slower, and quite frankly, your shot, depending on who you are, obviously not Bedard, is probably not as hard as most of the guys around you. So Othman needs to, get stronger, get faster, and just learn the game in his brain before he's able to put it together at the pro level. And he will, because he's shown so many flashes of it. And I'm very confident that he's going to be a very effective player. I actually put at the end of my story last night that, in the next 2 3 years, he'll be a fan favorite for sure.
Yeah, he definitely had some of those physical elements that a lot of fans of the older fans that they're looking for, and I like that. I like that he stood up for Kako after that hit in the first period
Mhm.
last night. I thought that was great. Also, Will Cooley is a
Yeah.
guy that Peter Laviolette has been talking about. High praise for him. I feel like you could correct me if I'm wrong or what you think, but I feel like he has a higher chance of making the team than Othman does.
Yeah, I would agree. Also because he's been playing pro a little bit longer.
Like
And I
last
think
year, he had a couple stints in the Rangers.
yeah, and even just the AHL experience too, right? Othman's coming from the OHL.
Yeah.
So it's just a little bit more of an adjustment period, I think, for Othman than it is for Cooley right now. But um, I would say Cooley gets half the season with the big club this year for sure. I could see him making the team, but then again, he's going to have to beat out the Pitlicks, the Boninos. Bonino maybe not, but because Bonino's probably going to get that fourth line center role. But I thought even Jake Lecision had a pretty solid game. I know, everyone looks at that assist to Wheeler
Yeah.
and thinks what a sick pass. And I'm not going to say it wasn't on purpose, but I feel like 9 times out of 10 that's just a lucky pass.
Mm.
It's probably a guy just trying to get the puck to the net, and Wheeler was in the right spot at the right time. But Lecision has a lot of. Oh my God, it's such a mouthful. Precision has a lot of speed, which, I think Bonino might not have anymore. But then again, Bonino has that veteran experience, and he's a solid faceoff guy and pretty responsible defensively. So I won't be surprised if those three are very interchangeable this year. But yeah, Cooley has looked really good, and obviously Laviolette has a lot of praise for him so far.
Yeah, one of the things they were talking about in the broadcast for the first Rangers preseason game was the Rangers have not been over 50% in the dot
Mm.
as a team since Chris Drury was on the Rangers.
Mhm.
Like that's how long it's been. So to have a guy like Benino, I think that's pretty valuable, even if he's a bit slower or a lot slower than Lecision or another guy on the team. But the veteran experience, it seems like it works out. The Rangers were kind of lacking that in previous years, so having that on the fourth line, like a VZ, Benino, Pitlick fourth line would be good, even if Cooley isn't there. But
Mhm.
Cooley has looked good. Also, you asked about Mac Hollowell, and he looked really solid last night on the pair with Gustafson. He looked really, really good. Uh, I didn't notice too many mistakes. Did you?
It's something that's so funny too, because now that I'm in the press box, I don't get to listen to what the broadcast is saying. So I don't know, if anyone else picked up on Mac Hollowell last night. I had a little nudge about him because my former roommate at Mercyhurst played with Mac in the Marlies organization in Toronto. So he texted me yesterday and he was like, "My buddy Hollowell's in the lineup. Keep an eye on him. He's a sleeper to make this team." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll look out for him." So I was kind of going into the game looking out to watch how he's going to play. And, it's funny, right? Because my roommate had texted me, I haven't seen you tweet about him. How's he doing? I was like, good first period, but nothing crazy. And then the second period, I thought he really stood out, had a couple more shots on goal and made a couple more plays and had a couple strong breakouts. And the breakouts is what I noticed most. He had a lot of speed coming through the neutral zone, which Peter Laviolette is harping on with this team. And then the third period, I thought he made a lot of good decisions with the puck. So, as the game went on, I just noticed him and noticed him and noticed him more. And that's good, right? Because when you are noticeable, it depends, right? Because I think sometimes you don't want to be noticed a lot because that means you're making a lot of mistakes. But
Yeah.
on the flip side, it's like if you're watching a certain guy and he's doing a lot of the right things, they're going to be noticeable for sure. And Hollowell was a guy that really, I just thought every time the puck was on his stick, he made a smart play. And that's really tough to do when you've only played 6 NHL games in your career and you're on a new team and, under a new coaching staff and you want to impress and you have a long shot at making this team. So, yeah, I just thought Hollowell looked great. And it was really cool to ask Laviolette that question and basically have him say that he agreed. And he said the exact same thing. So, obviously I'm also trying to get on the right foot with Laviolette too. He's a new coach, so I want to have a good relationship with him as well. And, it's nice that we saw eye to eye and how Hollowell played last night.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I thought you would like that.
Yeah,
But,
I was like, "Holy shit, that was sick." Yeah.
Yeah, Hollowell, I mean, I didn't really expect much, when they signed him, I had no idea who he was, but,
Mhm.
witnessing his first game, it's only one game though, preseason. Let's see how he does, in practice, and
Yeah.
you also have to see how, Jones and Robertson do because Robertson's been, like in the Rangers organization for a while now,
Yeah.
about 4 years, I think. And Jones, same thing. So, and I think many are expecting Jones to make the team or at least be the seventh defenseman on the Rangers. But I'm wondering, like, if Hollowell beats Jones out for that spot, the Rangers would probably have to trade Jones like right before the season starts because where are they gonna put him? Because like you can't have 8 defensemen. I mean, you could, but I don't know why you would do that. And he's not waiver eligible. Like any team
Yeah.
could claim him, and you'd lose
Yeah.
him for nothing.
I'm not quite sure how it's going to play out. We're only 2 games into the preseason. There's, I believe, 4 left. So, uh, it's interesting, right? Like, I don't think it's like a clear battle between, Jones, Hollowell, Robertson. I think if anything, Jones is still the favorite behind Gustafson, but like Gustafson also played well. And listen, there's going to be injuries. Like people get called up all the time. So like these guys aren't, it's not like they're going to disappear if they don't make the team right out of camp. But yeah, no, that's definitely a tough battle and tough decision that Laviolette's gonna have to make come the end of training camp. So Hollowell's putting himself in the conversation. I thought Jonesy looked solid, I thought, in Boston. But it wasn't a strong showing from the team as a whole in Boston. So it's a little bit more of a negative kind of feel to that game. But obviously if Jonesy's thrown back in and the team looks good, it's gonna help his, chances of making the team. So hopefully he can get back in and the team does well too. So yeah, it's a tough battle for sure. And these guys know they have pressure. So I think whichever guy just portrays the most confidence and doesn't crumble under pressure is going to ultimately make the team at the end of the day.
It's a good problem to have too, like the
Oh yeah.
depth, like both for forwards. Like we were talking about Cooley and Offman. Like if you have an injury, you could plug the hole like pretty easily.
Mhm.
Just call up Cooley, and he looked pretty comfortable last year in the NHL, and he looks really solid right now. Even a guy like Edstrom looked pretty good last night, and Rempe dropped the mitts. I thought that fight was
Those kids are
awesome.
huge.
Yeah,
Huge.
nuts. Yeah, those guys. I mean, like I said, yeah, good problem for the Rangers to have. And then getting into the last topic before I let you go, the injuries to Zibanejad, Hedel, and Panarin, during practice, before practice. I know Panarin didn't practice yesterday.
Mhm.
And what did they rule it again? It was
Day-to-day
lower
upper
body,
body.
upper body. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know some
I think
people were
all of them are day-to-day upper body.
yeah. I know some people were like speculating like, "Oh, they haven't had practices this difficult, in a long time." Could it be would you rule out fatigue for the injuries? Like, because I know
So
they're
I've
not
missed
specific with these injuries, but
yeah.
I like they won't tell you anything, but if you had to guess, like what does it look like to
I've
you?
missed the last couple practice days. So I can't necessarily speak to like I didn't see anything happen with my own eyes. So I'm not quite positive what it could be. I believe I heard that Mika was a shoulder.
Okay.
Um, but then again, I'm not too positive. I think that's just what was reported by my colleagues and whatnot. Um, I'll be at the games Thursday, Friday, so I'm sure I'll hear more about it the next couple of nights. But I haven't been able to get out to the practices the last couple of days because of other jobs and other commitments.
Mhm.
But I imagine we'll get some more answers as the week goes on. But I would expect all 3 of them to be in the lineup come opening night. It's not serious injuries, and I imagine they'll be careful with what they do with those 3 guys for the rest of the preseason.
You were at a practice, at least one of the
I was
practices,
at 2. I
correct?
was the first
Okay.
2, and then I had a couple shows to do. Then my best friend got engaged. Then Sunday, I honestly just Sunday they were in Boston, and I don't travel with the team. I'll go to some local games during the regular season, but I don't go on trips unless it's out of my own pocket, obviously, which I might do at some point of the season, but definitely not for preseason. And this week, it's just tough to get. I live in Brooklyn, so it's tough to get to Tarrytown, then all the way back and mix in other jobs and then go to the game. So just trying to pick and choose where I'm at right now. And then obviously once the season gets underway, it'll be a little bit easier to navigate everything. But yeah, I'll hopefully be at more practices as the
Yeah.
year goes on.
But, like, what did you notice out of those first 2 practices? Like, were they a lot different from, like, what you've heard about, like, the Lance practices? Like, it looked to me from the video from Colin and Vince, like, the players were hunched over, like, they were having trouble breathing. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's like they were getting pushed harder.
Well, that's also just training camp. I think training camp is always like they won't be looking like that in the regular season. Like
Well,
training camp
yeah,
is
not
always
during games, hopefully not.
no, I mean in practices. Like training
Yeah.
camp is really just about like pushing the team to the absolute limit. Like, and the message you always want to send to players is like you always have more in the tank than you think. Training camps are fucking tough. Like no matter what organization you're in, and I think there's a clear, and I've been careful wording this. It's not fear, but there's a more serious tone with Laviolette as opposed to Gallant. And I never was at a Gallant training camp, so I can't speak to what it was like for the players then. But I know what it's like for them now. Is the intensity is at 110% at all moments. So, um, you know, I don't know if guys typically goof around during training camp, but there hasn't really been much goofing around. With that said, as the season goes on, if the team's on a 3-4 game winning streak, I'm sure we'll see some more like goofiness and lightheartedness and stuff like that. But early on, it's everyone's trying to make a good impression here with the new staff, and it's locked in focus right now, 24/7.
Yeah, all business it seems like. So I would like, not say that it's those injuries are just like, oh, they're tired or they're fatigued from working too hard in practice. Like I don't know too much yet to make that decision.
It's
I'll ask
common.
Kyle.
It's common. Yeah. Training camp injuries and light injuries are common. Like, you go from playing summer hockey 3-on-3, like not throwing the body to then, thrown into the fire full force of, 5-on-5 battle drills, 2-on-2 battle drills. Like it's just a quick switch that gets flipped, from summer to training camp. And, I've seen it so many times in my career, just like of guys like, getting banged up a little bit right away because their body just like isn't used to the intensity for a couple months.
So we'll have to see. Do they practice tomorrow, the Rangers,
There
or
should be a morning skate because it's a home
yeah, morning
game.
skate?
But they didn't give out any roster like information at all yesterday for the game against the Islanders. So I
Yeah,
wonder what they're
yeah.
gonna do tomorrow. But there should be a morning skate. I won't be at the morning skate because I have a couple shows to do. But I imagine we'll hear from Vince, Molly, Colin, Arthur,
hmm
the rest of the gang.
Yeah.
So we'll hear more about that.
Yeah, I'll keep up with those guys. I'm actually gonna have Colin on in a couple weeks before the season starts, hopefully. So I'll get some more insight from him. But the other thing too is with the roster decisions, Laviolette's still trying to figure out the lines, and it's only 2 games, right? But he's not gonna play like Kreider every single one of these preseason games, right? Like he missed the first one, but like is Kreider gonna be playing the last 4? Or is he just gonna play like 2 of the 4?
Well, so I think typically veterans and guys who are for sure to make the team don't really go on the road trips. That's why you didn't see like Kreider, Mika,
Mm,
Panarin, Foxy, those guys in Boston. And that might just be like a veteran status kind of thing. I would expect to see a couple of the regulars tomorrow night at home against the Devils, and Friday maybe like a little bit of a lighter, less regulars, I guess. And then next week, I believe where are they? They're on the road in Jersey and then home against Boston, I think. So the Jersey game, I would expect somewhat of the same thing. And then that last preseason game, I would think there'd be a good amount of people we might see or fringe guys we might see come
yeah,
opening night.
right.
So it's gonna get intense as it gets going here, and cuts will be made, I'm sure, in the next couple of days. So it's gonna be, listen, preseason hockey is never so exciting to watch, but I imagine there's some guys that are going to be like a guy like Bobby Trevino, is another guy who impresses at practice almost every day. And I think they're curious to see what he can do in a game. So, there's still kids trying to make a team here. So those guys will be fun to watch, but the regulars, I'm sure they're going to take it a little bit easy as we go on.
Okay. And before we let you go, I need one bold prediction for you for the Rangers this season. Something crazy.
I don't know if it's crazy because I said it already, but Capo Caco 60 points.
Ooh, okay. I like that.
I don't know if that's crazy because, I think it's been somewhat talked about, but I don't know if everyone feels that way. I mean, like he set a career high last year at 40, so it's, not a huge jump, but it's a pretty solid jump. And I feel pretty confident that he'll do it.
I think every year he's played, I think he's gotten more points. Like the
Well, last year was like
years.
his first full season. He's been
Yeah.
hurt. There's been COVID. Last year I think he played all 82 or at least 81. So this year, hopefully he can stay healthy and, put up 60 points. That'd be sick.
Yeah. Yeah. 30 goals would be nice for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right, Johnny, I know you got to go. Thanks so much for joining the show this week. Good luck with everything. I know you're going to kill it at the Hockey News and
Thanks, Joey.
covering the Rangers.
Thank you. I'll see you at the Garden.